Recording. Okay, thank you for agreeing to this interview. This is Zach Curato. He's my brother. As a part of the history class at Sacramento City College, that's me. And then as part of this class, we are acting as working historians by doing this interview. Our goal is to create a record of the COVID era because this will be seen as a historic moment in the future. I just have a few questions for you, so let's begin. Let me see. Going to question 4. How did going through COVID change your routine on a daily basis?
Let's see. At that point, school was in session. It was March 2020.
Mhm.
Yeah, I remember in that semester, I was doing in-person classes. Everything just seemed to be the normal flow. Um, Society was functioning normally, I guess you could say. There's things going on globally, sure, but just domestically, things were just flowing.
Mhm.
Um, with March 2020, though, like we started, the reports of the virus started um, spreading throughout the different countries internationally, and then here and domestically, we even in the news we knew about it. Like we heard it coming, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Um, so how did? Let's see. I want to see the question again.
Let me put some context for it.
Yeah.
In March 2020, were you part of any gyms, any
Yeah.
team sports? Like what kind of things were you doing extracurricularly that may have stopped?
That's a good question. So I was definitely rock climbing at the time. I was going to school full time as a student.
Nice.
Um,
And at what school?
I was at Mesa Community College,
Nice. Thank you.
and here in Phoenix, Arizona.
Yeah.
And yeah, those two were my routines, I would say, in
Yeah.
out in social aspect.
Nice. All right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna move on to the next one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, so you were in school that time. How did the experience of transition from in-person to online during COVID affect you? Did it affect your ability to learn, or how was it taking the schoolwork to home?
That was difficult. That moving on from just being full-time student, in-person classes, and then it was quite abrupt switching to online.
Yeah.
There was a lot of learning curves,
Yeah.
um, because everyone was adjusting at the same time. The professors, the faculty, the staff at the school,
Yeah.
um, even the students. It was stay at home, and then here's a complete electronic version of school. So
Yeah.
it
Uh,
was it was pretty difficult with the change.
Yeah. At that time, what did your home life look like? Did you have roommates? Did you have any pets? When you turned to at home, what did home start? What was
At that point, yeah, I was living with my buddy Chris. He had a cat, so that kind of changed to where when COVID um, impacted, he lost his work, so he was at home much more often, and I was at home much more often too because I moved to online.
yeah, damn. All right, I'm gonna move on to the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
next one. In the beginning, what role did social media and the news play in your experience during COVID? Going off that, what are your sources of social media in the news?
Um, at that time, at at that time, I didn't really have much social media at all. Like
Hmm.
it was Facebook Messenger for keeping in contact with friends and family, and then Reddit.
Yeah.
But like past that, there was no other platforms that I utilized off the top of my head. I was
Mhm.
pretty, I kind of stayed in the dark.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's a good question. What do you remember, like, where you really started, like, hearing from sources that, like, there was a pandemic getting started, or
I was kind of watching the flow of everybody, kind of watching the flow of the city, the flow of the people, even my own friends in social groups. Um, they were all talking about it. I have many friends and acquaintances that were in nursing school and are going through it. So
Mhm.
they had quite a bit to say. Um, then,
Yeah,
my
that's a good source.
yeah, my other friends, they even my other social group, they were all on social media. You know, they were quite up to date in that realm. But
Mm.
that's interesting. Yeah, I really, I'm trying to think in my memory. I didn't have much at that time. I didn't
Yeah.
really read the news either.
Yeah. All right, let's go back. So you mentioned that um school was pretty tough transition. What was something else that seemed to be the toughest thing for you during COVID?
I would say the frustration of watching my fellow humans kind of just behave the way that they did. Um, it, it was COVID was tough in my life, yes, as it was for so many, as everybody across the globe. It was difficult, but just I didn't think it was the worst thing that could face, in a public. And
Mm.
so it was kind of like the toughest thing was watching, the didn't seem like there was too much community or camaraderie.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of, like, individualistic
Yeah, mindset, a
people.
lot of
Yeah.
it wasn't really a hive mentality. It was kind of, you could look at all the examples of how people treated the grocery stores or
Mhm.
um, uh, other establishments that were critical for that.
Yeah.
Um, so that, I would say that watching that one was probably the more tough thing.
Yeah. Um, so did anything change for you during COVID? Like, what you felt were your goals for school, what you felt like your goals for your physical health. Um, were there any? Yeah.
Yes, on both questions. As for my goals for school, once that moved to online, the next semester was going to be like that as well. And I
Mhm.
didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
And so at that point, that's when I made the decision at the end of that semester to just not go to school and just take a break while this kind of phased, while it was phasing over.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that's a good kind of segue is through that decision. Was there anything that you would have done differently? Um,
um, I don't think so, because the other question was about your physical health part,
yeah.
and that's what really increased on my. I put a lot more emphasis into that actually, and um, yeah, yeah, I put emphasis into like physical health after I stopped going to school.
Yeah. For you personally, what's the correlation between your physical health and your mental health during COVID?
That's a very strong correlation.
Mm.
Um, I kind of look at it as the, the mind, body, soul. So
Yeah.
mind takes care of
Mhm.
your body takes care of your mind, which carries the soul, and it's up to your job to care for all of them.
Yeah.
Um, so in terms of mind and body, it, I kind of look at it as a pretty holistic view. If my body is, healthy and it has energy, and I'm caring for it, nurturing it, and watering it,
Yeah.
then that kind of helps my mental part of my mind, with just the at peace of
Yeah.
it. There's a lot that goes on in the head, but knowing that my physical body is healthy is it. There's a pretty strong correlation there.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. So off those three, nurturing those, what did you find was the most difficult during lockdown? When it was the strictest rules. What were some things you were struggling with besides getting frustrated at everyone making poor choices for the community?
um, it's a good question. I'm trying to recall in my head, how I was feeling at that time.
Mhm.
What was going through my mind. Um, food was an essential source,
Mm.
and water was still, and so those two weren't really a factor in my head, fortunately. Um, I really tried to be calm and like practice patience.
Yeah.
I really try not to get like too frustrated past seeing like what my fellow humans were doing. Like that was aggravating. But
Yeah.
in terms of my
Uh,
own headspace, I really tried to walk carefully and getting frustrated and becoming, angry.
yeah. Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
Nice. All right. Well, I think I kind of got one more question off the top of my head, and then we'll wrap this up. I remember you mentioning Chris went through the transition of not having a job. Besides going to school, did you work at that time? Did you go through any of that, or what was the? Yeah, yeah,
Yes. So Chris did lose his job, so that was a loss of his income. I was working. No, actually, I got laid off at the YMCA as well.
yeah,
They shut down too. They tried to keep on, but it wasn't. It wasn't sustainable.
yeah.
So
For a
I worked.
time, you were paying Chris's rent, weren't you?
Yeah, I was. I was. Yeah.
Was that stressful, or like how was that looking back?
Um, I kind of saw it as I foresaw it as like what was coming.
Yeah,
Um, like I knew that Chris, got laid off, and I knew the situation of everybody being laid off. I sympathized with him. I
yeah,
was fortunate at that time to be receiving government disability,
mhm,
and through that was it was enough to pay for rent.
yeah,
Um, it was enough to pay for a little, well, for food.
yeah,
Uh, so I essentially we really went frugal, but yeah, I was paying his rent, and I'd buy groceries, but
yeah. Damn.
I didn't.
Um,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, so like at that time, how was the diet then? It sounds like you guys weren't really, didn't have money for food. Do you feel looking back that you guys were definitely like not eating enough, or is it kind of like hard to answer?
No, it's not hard to answer. I just want to answer accurately and
Yeah,
truthfully.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I would say, dude, we had enough. I felt in that time, I had enough funds and access to food to be okay.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I know there's so many people that can't say that, and it makes me sad. But
mhm,
um, at least in like my little household, I really tried to at least care for the.
yeah,
Let's take
yeah.
care.
Yeah. Well, thank you for doing this, Zach. I find these very heartwarming, thought provoking. I really
Yeah,
love
yeah.
your answers, and I really appreciate you taking the time to do this with me. I'm gonna
Of course,
check on
yeah.
this closing script and see if there's anything else I need to say.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
oh, yeah. If you approve, our interview will be housed online, so we would be online content creators.
Yeah,
Do you want this interview to be shared? If not, it will only go to my professor.
yeah. This information can be shared. I do
Cool.
not. Yeah, I'm cool with that.
Cool, cool. And then, yeah, thank you so much. I love you, brother. And I'm going to stop the recording.